Hi, this is Kanaya, and today we're going to talk about what does giving solicit advice mean. So, the last few weeks I've been doing a video how to give last week I was doing a video on what giving us unsolicited advice means. Giving unsolicited advice means that you're giving advice that they don't want. So giving solicited advice might be a little different. Solicited advice might be a little different. Solicited advice is guidance that someone has asked for or requested. It stands in contrast to unsolicited advice, which is given without being asked for. You might receive solicit advice in response to a question like, "What do you think I should do?" or when a colleague asks for your opinion on a project. Examples of solicit advice: asking a coworker for their opinion on a report you've written, a friend asking you to help them choose a new car, a manager asking for your input during a performance review, a campaign asking for suggestions to improve its strategy. What solicited mean? To ask for something in a determined and a persuasive way. To attempt to obtain something from someone, a synonym for requested or sought. So giving solicit advice is when you give someone advice that they was looking for, that they was asking for. So even though it's kind of like the opposite of unsolicited advice. So if someone was asking for help, or someone was asking for what can they do in the situation and stuff like that, that means you're giving them advice that they was asking. So it says, what can they say to give solicit advice? So either way, not even solicit advice, it's like to give, what can they say to give advice? So to give advice, you can say, "I think you should," or "Why don't you do this?" or "Have you thought about?" It's also being helpful to start by listening, understanding their perspective, and ask clarifying questions before offering options rather than a single solution. Because it's always more than one solution to the problem. It's always more than one solution to the problem. So we just gotta keep in mind of how many solutions that you can come up with. So direct suggestions: "I think you should, I recommend you, why don't you, how about this?" Direct suggestion: "I think you should do this, I recommend you to do this, why don't you, or how about this? Have you thought about doing this, or have you thought about doing that? If I were you, I would do this. How about this? What about you do this?" What about indirect and collaborative approaches? Reflecting what you hear. It seems like you're feeling, or sounds like you're thinking. Validating their feelings. That sounds tough, or it makes or it makes so much sense you're feeling this way. Presenting options. Have you considered these options? Or one possibility is connecting with their goals. How could this connect with your goal of sharing your own experiences? Sharing your own experience. When I was in a similar situation, I did this or I did that. So, either way, that might work because you know that another person is in a situation and you're there to go and help them, and it's like it depends on the situation and how they feel. So, important tips for giving advice. Listen first. Let them speak without interruptions until they are finished. Ask questions. Clarify their expectations and what they need before you offer solutions. Don't assume. Don't assume that you heard something that they didn't say. So, recognize that each person is unique and may have a different perspective. Provide options, not a solution. Present a range of options so that they can make their own choices. Avoid being peachy. I'm going to explain it to you guys. Frame your advice gently, especially if it wasn't requested. Know when to stop. Don't follow up later to see if they took your advice, because they already know that they already took your advice and they appreciate it, so they felt a little bit better. Well, it depends. Or if they're still in a situation, we can offer them help and stuff like that. So it depends. So even though that being peachy is a bad thing, let's see what being peachy means. So we can kind of get that, cuz some people be peachy when offering advice. So let's so being peachy is someone who's peachy will give you self-righteous advice whether you ask for it or not. The most movies are the ones that have a peachy moral at the end. When you're preachy, hold on, let me see. Avoid being preachy. Frame your advice gently, especially if it wasn't requested. So let's see what being preachy means. So being preachy is someone will give you someone who's preachy will give you self-righteous advice whether you ask for it or not. The worst movies are the one that have a preachy moral at the end. When you're preachy, you feel moral superior to other people and you're not afraid to talk about what you think they should do. So let's see let's talk about what are some examples of preachy behavior. Think of a friend who constantly tells you what you should do. Think of a friend who constantly tell you what you should do. It suggests an overbearing and self-righteous tone. It's not just offering advice. It's doing so in a condescending or judgmental manner, Imagine a movie where the moral message is hammer home relentlessly. That's preachy. So, so we just gotta be more considerate of how they are feeling in the situation. So, we don't want to be preachy to people and make them feel like they should do what and think or tell them what they think what they think they should do. It's kind of like giving unsolicited advice. It's kind of like the same thing. You're telling a person what you think they should do rather than making their own decisions. That's what I'm saying. When you give somebody unsolicited advice, you're telling them stuff that they didn't ask for or think that they should do or whatever. So let me see what can they say to be preachy. That's what I want to know. Can let's see. Two. So let's see. So let's see. So examples. So so now I'm gonna give you more summary about it. Being preachy means giving unsolicited moral advice or making tiresome self-righteous statements, often from a feeling of moral superiority. It's characterized by a tone that's overly instructive or didactic. Let's see. Did I pronounce this word right? Didactic? Let's see. Di-
Didactic.
Didactic. Yeah, didactic. Meaning that something is intended to teach, or instruct, especially a moral lesson. It can also describe teaching that is overly preachy or dull, sometimes with negative connotation, suggesting a work of art or writing is more focused on conveying its than being message than on being entertaining. So let's see.
Didactic.
Didactic. So we have questions? So being peachy means giving unsolicited moral advice or making tiresome self-righteous statements, often from a feeling of moral superiority, is characterized by a tone that's overly instructive or didactic, meaning, wait, let's see,
Didactic.
didactic means something that is intended to teach or instruct, especially a moral lesson. It can also describe teaching that is overly preachy or dull, sometimes with negative connotation, Suggesting a work of art of or writing is more focused on conveying its message than rather than being entertainment. So I'm not really preachy to you guys. I want you to know I have a nice tone right now. The way I'm teaching y'all this moral lesson. Well, between the way I'm teaching you guys this lesson, some people, I'm gonna tell you guys this. Some people might do it in a preachy way for in order for you guys to understand, but at the same time doesn't work that way. But at the same time, I want to get you guys to understand how is it affecting people? How do people feel when you give someone that kind of advice or whatever? So so by
Didactic.
didactic, um, um, instructive or didactic, telling people, wait, is characterized by a tone that's overly instructive or didactic, telling telling people what they should do or think, even when it's not even when it's not wanted. Examples including lecturing others on their perceived faults or presenting oneself as a sole expert on a problem. Unsolicited moralizing, offering advice, opinions, or judgments that were not asked for. Self-righteous tone, speaking as if you are morally better than others or the ultimate authority on a subject. um, didactic,
Didactic.
didactic language. Let me see. Didactic, didactic, didactic language. Using a lecture-like style that is often tiresome to listen to. Examples: saying things like, you really should have done this, or you really should have did this or did that, or kids today wouldn't be satisfied with something like acting as the proclaimed expert on someone else's problem, complaining about others' behavior, and suggesting how parents should teach them manners. So, so it depends on the tone that they are using to try to give advice to one another. But the thing is, when you give advice to people, we want to watch our tone or how we speak or how we speak to people. That's what I want to know. So now, now you guys just learned a new word and how is it affecting people in the future. We don't want to use those kind of words or language to affect people. So I hope this video helps you. So I hope you like, subscribe, and comment down below on my YouTube video. Thank you guys for watching.